For over a decade, I poured my heart, intellect, and every waking hour into Stratix Dynamics. When I walked through their glass doors 12 years ago, they were nothing more than a startup drowning in outdated systems and chaotic workflows. It wasn't glamorous. Most people hadn't even heard of the company, but I saw potential. And I don't just mean business potential. I saw a blank canvas, a place where I could build something meaningful from the ground up. I wasn't some corporate drone looking for a paycheck. I was an architect, a systems engineer, and a strategist, all in one. And over the years, I transformed that company into a tech powerhouse, using a platform I created from scratch. Pulse Grid. Every line of code, every automation protocol, every integration, it all had my fingerprints on it. I didn't just optimize their business, I gave it life. But in the corporate world, giving life doesn't guarantee loyalty. I found that out the hard way. One Monday morning, as I was going through security logs, two names appeared on the system I hadn't authorized access for. Preston Hale, our CEO, and his 24-year-old nephew, Eric Hale. That name hit me like a cold slap. Eric had just joined the company 3 months earlier, fresh out of college with no real-world experience. He was enthusiastic, sure, but he didn't even know how to back up a server properly. And now he had back-end access to PulseGrid? Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. At first, I told myself it must have been a mistake. Maybe Preston asked him to shadow me. But when I checked the audit trails more closely, I saw the truth. They were copying my architecture, trying to rebuild it, strip my name from it, rebrand it. I felt sick. This wasn't just disrespect. It was corporate theft. Theft of my life's work. And the worst part? I couldn't scream. I couldn't storm out or make a scene. Because in the boardroom, emotions are weakness, and I had to be smarter than them. So I played along. I showed up every day. I answered Eric's ridiculous questions. I even smiled at Preston when he passed me in the hallway. But behind the scenes, I was documenting everything. Screenshots, access logs, change records. Every move they made was being logged, encrypted, and sent to a secure cloud folder they didn't even know existed. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was preparing. Because if they thought they could use me, discard me, and keep what I built, they were about to learn what it feels like to underestimate the wrong man. I knew they would come for me. It was only a matter of time. And when they finally did, it wasn't even subtle. Just 3 weeks after I spotted the unauthorized logins, Preston called me into his office. The room was silent, air stiff with corporate cologne and arrogance. Eric was already there, pretending to scroll through his tablet like he had a clue what he was doing. Preston didn't waste time. "Logan, we're restructuring. New leadership. Fresh ideas," he said, avoiding eye contact. I almost laughed. Fresh ideas? From Eric? I had spent the last 12 years designing a platform that kept their business running on autopilot. And this child was supposed to replace me? That wasn't restructuring. That was betrayal disguised as business. But I kept my composure. "Of course," I replied calmly. "Let me prepare a handover plan." They both looked surprised. Maybe they expected me to argue, to panic. But I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. Because while they were celebrating my removal, I was finalizing a license activation key that would change everything. You see, PulseGrid wasn't just another company tool. It was mine. Built independently under my consulting license in the early years, long before Stratix Dynamics had their legal department in order. There was an agreement, signed and time-stamped, that clearly stated ownership of the core source code remained with me. Stratix had been leasing it unknowingly for over a decade. A lease I was about to terminate. That night, I initiated what I called the disconnect protocol, a silent, invisible procedure that began removing the core modules of PulseGrid from the company's servers. No errors, no warnings, just small lags, missing functions, delays in reporting. By the time they'd notice, the system would be hollow, like a body without a heartbeat. And I waited. 3 days later, my phone rang. "Logan, something's wrong with the system," said Jenna from operations. "Nothing's syncing properly. We're losing real-time data. Can you come in and help?" I told her gently, "I'm afraid I no longer work at Stratix," and I hung up. Then came the flood. Emails from every department, desperate messages, IT tickets stacking up. But I ignored them all, except one. A formal email from Preston. Subject line, "Urgent, legal inquiry." I clicked it open and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting in the room. It's letting silence speak. If you've ever felt powerless in a system built on lies, drop A in the comments. You're not alone. By the end of the first week, Stratix Dynamics was in free fall. PulseGrid's skeleton was still technically running, but without the core analytics engine, task coordination modules, and security protocols, it was as good as a glorified spreadsheet. Customer support collapsed under the weight of delayed shipments and corrupted records. The sales team couldn't access live performance metrics. The finance department panicked when recurring billing started double-charging clients. They didn't know what had hit them. But I did. Every fault, every crash, every blank report was my silent signature. This wasn't destruction. It was withdrawal. I wasn't breaking the system. I was simply taking back what was mine. Preston tried everything. He offered to rehire me. Then he offered me double the salary. Then came the threats. "We'll sue you for sabotage." That one made me laugh, because when I finally sent them the license agreement, clean, watermarked, notarized, it was like watching a wall of arrogance crumble in one instant. The document proved that PulseGrid's ownership and licensing were clearly separate from Stratix's intellectual property. They had been using it under implied consent, and I had revoked that consent in writing. The silence that followed wasn't just corporate. It was personal. No one from the company reached out again. Not even the few people I once mentored. Maybe they were afraid, maybe ashamed. But I wasn't looking for apologies. I was already on to the next chapter. 3 weeks later, I signed a consulting agreement with Novant Tech, one of Stratix's direct competitors. They had heard what happened. Word travels fast in tech, especially when there's blood in the water. But Novant didn't just want PulseGrid. They wanted my mind. They gave me full autonomy, triple the pay, a private development team, and a platform for something even bigger. And they gave me something else Stratix never did: respect. The best part? Some of my old team reached out. Quietly, privately. "Logan, if there's a place for us, we'd like to follow you." And I said yes. Because those who stayed loyal, those who saw what was happening and chose silence over betrayal, deserved better. We weren't just building another system now. We were building a legacy. And as for Eric Hale, the golden nephew, his LinkedIn went dark. Last I heard, he had moved back in with his parents. Preston? He resigned 2 weeks after Stratix lost its biggest investor. The company's stock dropped 61%. Their acquisition deal fell through. And Pulse Grid? Well, she's thriving. Rebuilt, rebranded, and reborn under my full name. If you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been told you're replaceable, remember Logan Price. You are not a tool. You are the architect. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, justice, and triumph. And tell me in the comments, if you were in my place, would you have done the same?